Imagine a world where the future of a powerful nation is tied to the fate of a distant island. Greenland, a land of ice and isolation, but also a land of untapped resources and strategic importance. The United States, under President Trump, has set its sights on Greenland, not for its beauty, not for its people, but for its potential. The US sees Greenland as a pivotal piece in a global chess game, a game where military might, diplomacy, and resources collide. What makes Greenland so valuable? Its location right between North America and the Arctic, a prime spot for military installations, early warning systems, and missile defense. But there's more. Greenland is melting, and as the ice recedes, new resources, rare earth minerals, uranium, and oil become accessible. These resources could change the global balance of power. But there's a problem. Greenland belongs to Denmark, and Denmark has made it clear Greenland is not for sale. So why does President Trump keep bringing it up? Why is he so fixated on this frozen island? It's not about the land itself. It's about the geopolitical stakes. This isn't just a territorial dispute. It's a question of power, influence, and global strategy. A question of who controls the Arctic. A question of whether diplomacy can hold against military might. As you think about this potential power shift, consider the bigger picture. How far are nations willing to go to secure their place in the world? But before we dive deeper into this geopolitical drama, let's take a step back and explore how this all began. Why is Greenland suddenly at the center of such intense international debate? So let's address the core issue. Why is this conversation happening at all? Why is the United States so intent on acquiring Greenland? At first glance, it might seem absurd. Greenland is remote. It has a population of only about 56,000 people. It's often covered in ice. So what makes it so important? The answer lies in the changing world order. The Arctic is becoming more accessible. And in the context of global competition, Greenland's strategic location is invaluable. The US sees Greenland as a key to securing its influence in the Arctic region. And with that, the potential to safeguard its national security. But it's not just about geography. It's about resources, rare minerals, oil, and gas that are becoming easier to access as the ice melts. This is a new frontier, one that could provide the US with the edge it needs over rival powers, especially Russia and China. But let's pause for a moment. What happens when a nation's desire for control clashes with the sovereignty of another? When one country's interest in a territory is met with resistance from its rightful owner, what does this tell us about the nature of global politics today? What does it say about the lengths to which nations will go for security and power? To understand this conflict more deeply, we must look at its history. How did Greenland's position evolve into something so vital for global superpowers? To truly understand why Greenland is at the heart of this debate, we must look at its history. Greenland's relationship with Denmark dates back to 1721. It's been a Danish colony for centuries. Yet, Greenland's position has always been more complicated than just a colony. In 1953, Greenland was made an integral part of the Kingdom of Denmark. But even today, it has considerable autonomy, especially in local governance. The US has had its eye on Greenland for a long time. During World War II, the US established a military base at Thule in the north of Greenland. This base, now known as Pituffik, has been critical to US defense ever since. Its location has made it a strategic asset in the Cold War and beyond. Fast forward to the Cold War. The Arctic became a vital battleground for influence. Greenland's location between North America and Europe made it a key player in military strategy. It was never just a remote island. It was the front line in the global struggle for supremacy. But Greenland's importance is not just military. In recent years, its natural resources have become a focus of attention. The melting ice has revealed deposits of precious metals, minerals, and fossil fuels. This has sparked intense interest from global powers, particularly the United States. But despite this long history, Greenland has always remained part of Denmark. And Denmark has made it clear, Greenland's future is not for sale. As we look back at this history, one question remains: what role does sovereignty play in a world where global power dynamics are shifting so rapidly? To understand what's happening now, we need to look at the present moment. What triggered this renewed interest in Greenland? And what are the potential consequences? Then, something unexpected happened. In 2019, President Trump made a bold move. He publicly suggested that the United States should buy Greenland, a proposal that shocked the world. Denmark and Greenland rejected the offer outright. The backlash was swift and fierce. But the matter didn't end there. Trump's administration continued to discuss the possibility, and even more controversially, it was revealed that military force had been considered. The idea of using military might to acquire Greenland was discussed behind closed doors. The suggestion was not to be taken lightly. It was an act of aggression in the eyes of many. In a world where diplomacy reigns, such an idea raised eyebrows. Could a superpower really threaten military action to acquire a piece of land? Could this signal a new era of territorial conquest? For Denmark and its allies, the mere suggestion was deeply unsettling. But why did this idea persist? Why didn't the Trump administration back down? The answer lies in the same drive that has fueled so many global decisions before: security. Greenland holds a vital position in the North Atlantic, a key to defense and early warning systems. It's not just about territory. It's about maintaining control in a rapidly changing world. As we look at this crisis, ask yourself, what does this say about the power of military influence in today's world? And what happens when diplomacy falls short? But this crisis was just the beginning. Let's explore the deeper mechanisms at play here. What drives the pursuit of power? And what are the forces behind this relentless ambition? Let's dig deeper into what's really going on here. What drives a superpower like the United States to pursue such an aggressive stance over a territory it doesn't control? At first glance, it might seem like a matter of land and resources. But beneath the surface, it's about control. Control of the Arctic, control of military power, control of the future. Greenland's geographical location makes it invaluable for US defense systems. The Pituffik Space Base is a key early warning station. It's been used for decades to monitor missile launches and other military activities. The US is not just interested in Greenland for its resources, though they're certainly a part of it. It's also about maintaining an upper hand in the face of Russia and China's growing influence in the Arctic. This is the mechanism at play. It's not just about military might. It's about positioning. It's about being one step ahead in a race for control of an increasingly important region. And the melting ice only intensifies the competition. As we unpack this, ask yourself, how much of global politics is driven by strategic positioning rather than simple territorial ownership? And how far will countries go to secure their future? But the mechanism of power is not just about military installations and strategic locations. It's about something deeper, something that affects the very lives of the people who live in these contested areas. Let's take a look at how this pursuit of power impacts the people of Greenland. As the talks about acquiring Greenland continued, a new crisis erupted. The world was watching closely, and the reaction was swift. Denmark, along with its European allies, made their position clear. Greenland is not for sale. The very notion of using military force to acquire it was rejected by world leaders. Yet, the Trump administration did not back down. This led to an escalating diplomatic crisis. In 2019, President Trump canceled a planned state visit to Denmark, a clear sign of the growing tension. This was not just about an island. This was a clash of geopolitical interests. It was a public declaration of power, but at what cost? The world reacted. France, Germany, the UK, and others voiced their concerns. A statement was issued, reaffirming Denmark's sovereignty. The European Union made it clear. Such actions cannot go unchallenged. The US was a member of NATO, an alliance built on collective defense. But would a move like this fracture the very foundation of that alliance? The implications were profound. What happens when a NATO ally threatens the sovereignty of another NATO member? Would such a move trigger a larger geopolitical shift? Would the alliance hold, or would it fracture under the strain of competing interests? As you reflect on this escalating crisis, consider this. How do nations balance their desire for power with the need for global cooperation? And what happens when alliances are put to the test? While global reactions are critical, we must also consider the people directly affected by these power struggles. How are the citizens of Greenland responding to these forces beyond their control? Let's take a look at the impact on their daily lives. But amidst all the political maneuvering, the real question is, what about the people who live in Greenland? What do they think about all of this? Greenland's residents, mostly Inuit people, have lived under Danish rule for centuries. For them, the idea of being sold or traded is not a new one. They've long struggled with the consequences of foreign control. Arja Chemnitz, a member of the Danish parliament representing Greenland, was vocal about the issue. She called the idea of the US buying Greenland a clear threat. For Chemnitz, it wasn't just about politics. It was about the dignity of her people, the preservation of their culture, and their right to self-determination. But not everyone in Greenland feels the same way. Alakatsiak Piri, a 42-year-old hunter living in Qaanaaq, offered a different perspective. For him, whether Greenland is under Danish or US control didn't matter much. We are already losing a lot from being under the Danish government, he said. For him, the real issue was survival in a changing world. The sea ice, once a stable source of livelihood for hunters, is melting. The land is changing, and with it, the way of life. In the face of environmental destruction, he's more concerned about immediate survival than political sovereignty. As you think about the lives of those living in Greenland, ask yourself, what does sovereignty mean when your daily life is shaped by forces beyond your control? And how do global power struggles impact the most vulnerable? While the people of Greenland face the consequences of these decisions, the world must also reckon with the broader implications. What will happen to the Arctic and to global relations in the years ahead? The situation in Greenland doesn't just affect the island itself. It's part of a larger geopolitical puzzle. The Arctic is becoming a new frontier in global politics. As the ice melts, new shipping routes open up, new resources are exposed, and old rivalries are reignited. The United States, Russia, and China are all vying for influence in the region. For the US, Greenland represents more than just a piece of land. It's about maintaining dominance in the Arctic. It's about sending a message to Russia and China. The US will not back down from its strategic interests. But what happens when these superpowers clash over such a critical area? Greenland's fate could have far-reaching consequences. Any move by the US to assert control could spark a wider conflict. It could strain relations with NATO allies, and it could destabilize the region. The Arctic is a delicate balance. What happens in Greenland affects not just the immediate parties, but the entire world. The future of global security could be shaped by what happens here. The Arctic could become the next hotspot for military competition, or it could be a place for cooperation if countries can find a way to work together. As you think about the global implications, ask yourself, what will the future hold for the Arctic? Will it be a place of conflict or collaboration? And what role will Greenland play in shaping that future? But as we look ahead, we must consider the future of Greenland itself. What could the future hold for this island, for its people, and for the world? Now, let's turn our gaze to the future. What does the future of Greenland look like? What role will it play in a world shaped by shifting power dynamics? There are three possible scenarios to consider. one where Greenland becomes a crucial part of global security, one where it remains a contested territory caught between superpowers, and one where it becomes independent, carving out its own future. Scenario 1, the best outcome, cooperation and stability. In this scenario, Greenland's strategic importance is recognized by all. Instead of conflict, nations come together to establish cooperative agreements. Greenland becomes a neutral zone where global powers set aside differences for the greater good. The Arctic remains a place of cooperation, where shared resources are carefully managed. This is the scenario where global diplomacy triumphs and the world avoids another Cold War. Scenario 2, the middle ground, tension and contested control. In this scenario, Greenland remains at the center of geopolitical tension. The US, Russia, and China continue to vie for influence over the island. But instead of military conflict, there are constant diplomatic battles. Greenland becomes a symbolic piece in a larger game of power where each nation tries to assert its dominance without crossing the line into full-blown war. This is a world where strategic competition defines global relations. Scenario 3, the worst outcome, conflict and division. In this scenario, Greenland becomes the flashpoint for a major international crisis. Tensions escalate beyond diplomacy and military actions are taken. NATO could be torn apart, and the Arctic could become the site of a new kind of Cold War. Greenland's people are caught in the middle of a battle for control, and the island's fate is decided not by negotiation, but by force. This scenario leads to a fractured global order, where trust between nations erodes and alliances are shattered. As you reflect on these three scenarios, ask yourself, which one seems most likely? And which one would you choose if you had the power to shape the future? As we come to the end of this journey, one truth becomes clear. The situation with Greenland is not just about an island. It's about power, influence, and the future of global relations. It's a reflection of the way nations see themselves and their place in the world. The pursuit of Greenland reveals the fragility of international alliances. It exposes how thin the line is between cooperation and conflict. It reminds us that, in the end, it's not just land or resources that matter. It's the people and the choices they make. What happens with Greenland will not just shape the future of that island, it will shape the future of the Arctic, and it will shape the future of global diplomacy. We are at a crossroads, a moment in time where the choices made today will echo for generations to come. The world is watching. And the question is, what will we do with this power? As we close, I leave you with this question. What kind of world do you want to live in? A world where diplomacy triumphs, where nations work together, or a world where power is wielded by force, where alliances crumble and conflict reigns? The future is in our hands.